The race that really pulled in the spectators during the week was Friday's senior TT. And on Thursday, after the previous day's exciting lightweight, ultra-lightweight and sidecar races on the Clip circuit, the tension was building up noticeably. The weather had been glorious all through the practice week and race week, and at the weigh-in for the senior it was better than ever. Too good, the locals said, and how right they were. Friday's dawn was washed with torrential rain. There was impenetrable mist all over the mountain, and racing was obviously impossible. Still, there'd been no cancellation, so up to the starting grid went the 59 riders, and into their positions went the countless officials. In dreadful weather, the roads were closed, but the stewards postponed the planned start until 11:30 in the hope that the mist would lift. But after a jury meeting, clerk of the course Sam Haggett made this announcement to the sodden multitude.
Hello everybody, this is the clerk of the course speaking. Already I've made, as you know, 2 announcements, and this is a further one. The jury have met at 10:25, and they consider that conditions are not likely to be suitable for a start at 11:30. But they will meet at 11:15 to consider the position further.
And when they met at 11:15, they made a very wise decision to delay the start until 10:30 on the Saturday morning. Only the second time in the 52-year history of the races that it had been necessary to make an overnight postponement. On Saturday morning, the skies were clear and bright, the roads were dry, and everything looked set for a wonderful race under ideal conditions. Once more the riders came out for the warming-up session. But this time there was one less, for Gary Hocking had to leave the island to race in Sweden. And so they formed up in the grid, and, as in the junior TT, the supermen had the early numbers. Then it was 0 hour, 10:30. In a moment of silence, up went the starter's flag, then down, and away went Bob McIntyre on his Norton to a brilliant getaway. 10 seconds behind him, John Hartle. Then Bob Brown, Norton. Number 4 was next, and that was John Surtees. Now the brilliant Bob Anderson, Norton. Then Dickie Dale on his BMW twin. Next, number 8, Alistair King, who'd had far more than his share of bad luck on the TT course, but it was right on form after his wonderful ride in the junior. What a first lap it was. On dry roads, but fighting against a terrific wind, Surtees had taken the lead up the mountain and was 38 seconds ahead of Hartle when he screamed past the grandstand. And no wonder, for he'd broken Bob McIntyre's 1957 Jalira lap record from a standing start, with a lap at 101.18 miles an hour. Hartle was over 2 miles an hour slower, but led McIntyre by 13 seconds. Here's Surtees at Union Mills, 2.5 miles out, on lap 2. And second, not Hartle, but McIntyre, for the MV man had stopped at the pits for fresh goggles. But then came Hartle, third on the roads and on time. At Solby Bridge on lap 2, there was a most disastrous change in the weather, with driving rain and half a gale blowing. But Surtees had increased his lead to over a minute, and Mac was still ahead of Hartle. Bob Brown was fourth on the roads. Bob Anderson was fifth. Behind him, Alistair King. Then Dickie Dale's BMW, followed by Terry Shepherd's Norton. By the end of lap 2, the weather was appalling. A tearing wind and driving rain were buffeting the riders, soaking their leathers, slowing their reactions and reducing their speed. But Surtees still averaged over 100 miles an hour. McIntyre was in at the pits with clutch trouble, though. So when King started his third lap, he moved up to third place behind Hartle. At Ginger Hall on lap 3, Surtees was on his own, leading by over 2 minutes. And then, a real sensation. Hartle had skidded off the road at Glen Vine, and with McIntyre still at the pits, it was Bob Brown second on the road, with King right behind him in second place on time. Then, frozen to the marrow, Bob Anderson toured by on his way to retire at the pits. Alan Trow, seventh man, had been literally blown off the road at Ballaugh. Practically everyone was stopping for goggles. There had been 12 retirements already, and John Surtees' lap speed was down by 20 miles an hour. This was the worst TT weather ever. But Roy Ingram and Paddy Driver, now an amazing fourth and fifth, were coping magnificently with things at Ginger Hall. At half distance on lap 4, with conditions at their worst, Surtees led through the mist, rain and gale by over 2 minutes from King, with Brown third. King was simply magnificent, and actually lapping faster than Surtees, even though he took Craigna Bar very cautiously. But then by now everyone was cautious. Here's George Catlin on his G50 matchless. Ingram driver scrap for fourth place was still going on. Now number 1, McIntyre, after a 12-minute pit stop, was fighting back in a fantastic fashion in spite of the weather. After 4 laps he was 12th and had caught number 29, Alan Shepherd. the end of lap 4, Surtees, King and McIntyre all refueled. By now there were only 28 men left out of the 58 who had started. King had actually gained over half a minute on Surtees, but John still led by 1 3/4 minutes, although his average speed was now under 90 miles an hour. Brown was third, Powell and his match was fourth, Ingram fifth, and Driver sixth. Listen to how the weather slowed down the men still left on lap 5. At the bungalow, John Surtees. And Alistair King. Paddy Driver and Roy Ingram were much slower than usual too. Now Bob McIntyre had got up to 7th place. At Craignabar, almost at the end of the lap, it was hardly any better for Surtees. Or for Bob Brown, whose Norton was right off the megaphone. Or for Derek Powell, who was hanging on grimly to his 4th place. By now, most of the riders were expecting the race to be stopped as it had been in 1954. But it wasn't, and McIntyre went scorching on, faster than anyone. But Brandywell. At the Craig. At the grandstand. Yes, Mac was really pressing on, but for poor Roy Ingram in 5th place there was disaster. Plug trouble at Governor's Bridge. And he pushed in to sympathetic applause. Then he got going again, but out of the running now, poor chap. And so to the last lap. Surtees was well away when King thundered past the grandstand in 2nd place. and Bob Brown was now 5 minutes behind Alistair. But at least the rain had stopped, although the roads were still very treacherous, when Surtees arrived at the bungalow with more than 5 minutes lead. Then King, tired, cold and wet through. And third man, Bob Brown. The fantastic McIntyre was fifth now, only 2 minutes behind Derek Powell, and his Norton sounded terrific at the bungalow. And so it ended, with John Surtees coming in to win, and to become the second man in the long history of the TTs to win both junior and senior races in 2 successive years. It's frankly impossible to describe just how bad the conditions were, but this was how Surtees himself saw things when Murray Walker spoke to him immediately after he crossed the line.
John, congratulations on a fantastic victory. What was it like and how do you feel?
Well, I just feel very, very cold and I can't hardly move at the moment, but I certainly wouldn't like to have to ride another race like
Sure
it.
you will. Have you got cramp?
It came on a little about midway during the race, and the main thing is I do suffer from cold in my hands, and well, I can't even feel them at the moment.
One last question. What was it like on the mountain on those very bad laps?
Well, I said I just don't want to ever do it again.
Well, wonderful show, John.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And that marked the end of TT Week 1959. But for ardent collectors of exhaust notes, I simply can't resist a quick flashback to the Golden Jubilee Senior Race of 1957, when we last heard the battle cry of the V8 Gutsie. And the unforgettable sound of four-cylinder Jalera versus MV, when Surtees momentarily overtook the winner, Bob McIntyre, at Craignabar, to the great excitement of BBC commentator Alan Dixon.
Got to pin our eyes on this road, straight down the road, dark like. And Surtees is here too, and he's taken him. Surtees has taken McIntyre on his red